songs for you. First of all, I'm going to do a song about a friend of mine. Hugh's lost to Edinburgh. He passed away last month. And he put Scotland on the flag back in the 70s. He used to fight all over the world. And he used to wear the Buchanan tartan shorts. Same tartan as this. There's a huge loss to the Leith community and to Edinburgh. A man called Ken Buchanan. So I wrote this song. I wrote this song to go towards get a statue made for the great man. And thankfully, just before he passed away, he was at the unveiling of the statue, which all the proceeds came from the Edinburgh community and far and wide. And this song went towards a charity to help raise money. All the proceeds went to help raise money for the statue for the great man. It's called The Edinburgh Man, Ken Buchanan.
It's always a pleasure to come through to Glasgow. But, you know, knowing weather like this, I think the last time I spoke out at a demonstration in Glasgow was very much like this. But the last time we actually had a demonstration all under one banner was through in Edinburgh. I think it was October at the end of last year. And think of the amount of water and blood that's been under the bridge since then. Scotland has fundamentally changed as a country in that time. We now see that the unionist forces, all that they can offer us is dust and ashes. Dust and ashes. That is all they can offer us. If we do not take independence in our own hands, there'll be nothing worth saving in this country. They are turning us into a commodity colony. We have never been
something called Independence Day. Marching on the green today with my yes badge on. Stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. Said I was a dreamer, well I let him have a say. Say yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of Independence Day. Hello. Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. When that day comes around, comes it will for sure. We will have a country where all can be assured. A nation of equality, fairness and respect. And the government we vote for is the government we get on Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. Now I'm not anti-English, I'm not an Irish or the Welsh. I'm just dreaming of a country that distributes its wealth. Downtrodden people have opportunity. Break the chains and free themselves out of the traps of poverty. Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. And I know I'm fortunate. I know well off I am compared to those in Syria and in Palestine. Just dreaming of a country one day we'll be free to determine our own future, yeah, people's destiny. Independence Day. Independence Day. Yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of an Independence Day. You cannot abandon, you cannot abandon, you cannot abandon. You cannot abandon, you cannot abandon, you cannot abandon. Hey, I was standing in Glasgow green today, still my yes badge on. A stranger, he approached me to tell me I was wrong. He said I was a dreamer, and I let him have his say. Say yes, my friend, I'm dreaming of Independence Day.
I'm going to start with a test of loyalty. Who here would rather be undercover in Westminster Abbey? Who here would rather be in the rain in Glasgow Green? Well, that's settled then. It is, of course, a tale of two cities, is it not? In London, the subjects are required to swear an oath of allegiance to the crown. In Scotland, in Glasgow, the citizens choose to swear an oath of loyalty to Scotland. It's said that understand that the homage of the people is now to be said silently, which will stop people having to swear at their television sets. Well, in Glasgow, our declaration for Scotland will be loud and proud. Now, countries can move backwards and they can move forwards. In medieval Scotland, the king had to take an oath of allegiance to the people, to the community of the realm. In 21st century England, they think the people should take an oath of allegiance to the king. change for the better. We made progress towards independence. But that, fellow citizens, has come to a halt. We're now in a situation where qualified Scots can't get in to university, where our proud universal health service has people going overseas to pay because they can't wait and suffer in pain. We're in the energy capital of Europe. Folk can't afford to turn on their heating. That is the reality of Scotland today. And on the constitutional question, it's turned from being now is not the time to a polite no to get stuffed. That's the reality of Scotland today. And therefore, what is to be done? Well, look around. Look around you now. Look at the march we've seen had. The greatest march in Scotland since COVID. One of the greatest marches in Scotland ever. The strongest political force in Scotland is the national movement. In ancient times, the city of Sparta had no walls. It didn't need them. The people were the walls of Sparta. Well, you are the walls of Scotland. You are Scotland's defenders. You are Scotland's protectors. And you will ensure progress for our country. So the national movement, the most powerful movement in Scotland, has to declare itself independent from any political party. It has to do the thinking. It has to do the preparation, the policy work, the international lobbying, the activism that we see today. And it's got to prepare ourselves and the people for a world where we approach our objective, where we'll take dedicated democratic action to wrest our independence from Westminster. And that national movement has to require something of political parties. Next year at the general election, the political parties who believe in independence should stand all under one banner. With a single first paragraph in every manifesto, which says we are seeking a mandate to negotiate independence for Scotland. And secondly, we have to make sure that our voice today from this, the most powerful movement in Scotland, is heard loud and clear. That we want our independence and we want it now. So what do we want? When do we want it? I think other people in Glasgow are going to have to hear it. So what do we want? When do we want it? One more time for the benefit of those in Westminster Abbey. What do we want? When do we want it?
Well, it's been a while for too long, but I see him back. We're going to hear a wee short musical interlude now, and you've got in for a rare treat. We've got some great speakers coming up, so I hope you hang on. We've got John Cherry, a Bonnie Factor, if ever there was one for the independence movement, and we've got Craig Murray. We owe a debt of gratitude to Craig Murray for the work that he has done. But before we get there, we've got the Kymatics, who are a folk roots band for Aberdeen. Now, I've never heard of them before, so I googled them and listened to them last night. I'm telling you, you're in for a right treat. And I was listening to their sound check. They're very, very good. I was asking the lead singer there, if Kymatics, if the word Kai's got anything to do with twos. Apparently it's not, and I thought, well, that's probably just as well, because it was Aberdeen, it should have been really about sheep. But anyway, I'll hand over to the Kymatics. You're in for a real treat here, folks.
I didn't hear you. Hello, Scotland! of the NHS and its future in independent Scotland. I'm a doctor, I've worked in the NHS for 35 years, training initially in hospitals but spending most of my career in general practice. Today I'm speaking on behalf of NHS for Yes, and you can find us on Facebook. Please join us. NHS, just to remind us all, stands for Universal, Equitable, sorry it's a bit of a mouthful, comprehensive, high quality healthcare, free at the point of delivery, and its values are relevant today as they were in its inception over 70 years ago. So now let's consider the NHS in Scotland under the current arrangements in the UK. The outsourcing of NHS to private companies has accelerated over the last 10 years. Two core pieces of legislation introduced in England, the Health and Social Care Bill 2012 and the Health and Care Act 2022, which means that the NHS will be a mere shell of its former self. Scotland will not be able to escape that no matter how much we stick our heads in the sand. And its main function will be to dole out contracts to favoured partners. Professor Alison Pollock has written extensively on this subject and asserts that the NHS will be reduced to a public funding stream in A.U.O.B. And you could all ask yourself, so what? Doesn't a private component get better outcomes? And isn't the NHS unaffordable anyway? And the answer, of course, to both of these questions is a resounding no. Evidence published in the leading medical journal The Lancet suggests that private sector outsourcing corresponds with significantly increased rates of treatable mortality. It also impacts on the clinician-patient relationship, which is crucial to continuity of care, and also the goodwill within the health service, but rarely factored into the value of the health service. Every Doctor UK campaign group advocates that shareholders shouldn't be part of our public healthcare conversations, and private companies should not be skimming a profit from the NHS. Outsourcing also fragments the service across the country, creating a postcode lottery, where patients receive different levels of care and access to treatment services based on their location. This is an expression of the inverse care law coined by Julian Tudor-Hart, a GP in Wales, where people who need health care are least likely to receive it. Retaining staff now is a major problem across the UK. There's over 1,400 UK trained doctors left to practice overseas. 64% of those are British nationals going to Australia and New Zealand. And 1 in 8 NHS staff have been in their current role for less than a year. There are now 130,000 vacancies across the UK, and this means that more work is carried out by agency staff or less experienced team members, and it's costly and less effective in providing adequate staffing levels and work conditions for the staff in the NHS. And money really does matter. Inflation is taking the average UK worker's real wages 2.5% below the 2009 level. I'm sure everybody knows about that. But earnings are down 13% for nurses and 24% for junior doctors. And there's a great thread on Twitter by John Burnworth, who's a Financial Times journalist, and it's definitely worth the read. So developers in Scotland can't protect the NHS if the government ideology is to dismantle the NHS and move towards an insurance-based model like the US, where over 2/3 of personal bankruptcies are due to failure to pay their medical bills. And despite the enormous costs of the healthcare system in America, Americans have a life expectancy 3 years less than that of their counterparts in the UK. So the UK government political choices reinforcing its agenda to collapse the NHS and push people who can pay to offer treatment in the private sector. And it's a far cry from the promises of 350 million of new funding in the NHS each week if we left the EU. Instead, the government slashed GDP spend in the NHS, which is now under enormous stress, and is expecting the NHS to find increased savings of 4.75 billion with no plan to achieve it. And this is all relevant to Scotland and our NHS because of the burning consequentials of impact on NHS funding. And Scotland already spends over 40% of its budget on healthcare. And it also puts the budget for the disastrous test and trace scheme, 37 billion, which according to the Public Accounts Committee achieved none of its aims and failed to make a measurable difference to the progress of the pandemic. And you can remember all the headlines about that missing money. And it also reflects very badly on the UK government's standards and its commitment to funding public service Office report. So if the UK government had focused on diverting the money to where it should be spent, then that 37 billion could well have refunded the NHS across the UK and addressed some of the pay issues that push nurses and junior doctors to strike in England, and junior doctors have been able to strike in Scotland too. And imagine that slogan on the side of a bus. So you really can't pick and mix the ideological commitment to the NHS. You're either all in or you're not. And you can't expect a devolved healthcare system like Scotland's to fully contribute to a wellbeing economy without devolving all other responsibilities and powers that impact on the social determinants of health. And in short, this means an autonomous and independent Scotland. As the late great Jimmy Reid said in his electoral address to Glasgow University over 50 years ago as he became rector, and it still rings true, government by the people, for the people, becomes meaningless unless it includes major economic decision making by the people, for the people. This is not simply an economic matter. In essence, it is an ethical and moral question, for whoever takes the most important economic decisions in society determines the social priorities of that society. So tonight, when you go home, forget Netflix or sports news, I'm sorry, I'm not a football fan, go to YouTube and watch the great NHS heist. There are now many credible sources of information about the NHS sell-off. Every Doctor UK, the Onyx, Keeper is public, they're all campaigning groups. Byline Times, the National, iScot magazine are all worth reading. They all have a social media presence. You can all access that information very easily. Despite all of this, and doom and gloom, Tavis, things are better in Scotland, a phrase coined by the financial journalist Paul Lewis, and we really must hold on to that as we move forward. He lists several benefits that are higher paid are only available in Scotland, including best start payments in pregnancy and for preschool children, and free prescription charges. In England, most people under 60 pay £9.35 an item. These all benefit our good health. These are some of the examples of the positive political choices the Scottish Government has made, even with limited powers. But with limited powers, we have limited choices, limited opportunity, and limited aspiration. Looking forward, one of our priorities for independent Scotland is a written constitution to rebuild the NHS and public health, as well as aligning social care with the NHS as a nationalised service. And we should be confident that we can economically achieve this. And I'm quoting from an excellent article in May, written by Jim Osborne. Taxes are not required for government spending. With our own currency and central bank, government spending decisions are financed by the central bank. So Scotland clearly needs its own currency and its own central bank. Which would be an excellent move as we've been conditioned to accept Dean Coorer, as per the comments of the Chief Economist of the Bank of England, who I'm sure he's talking about the we being poorer, but not the he being poorer. And we're conditioned to believe that the hype about government decisions that are enriching a very few at the expense of the majority is acceptable. Lord Prince Sika in the House of Lords has said that the UK government is certainly aiming higher. Higher inflation, higher corruption, higher use of food banks, higher rates of child poverty and hungry school children, and UNICEF had to step in recently to feed children. Higher numbers of working poor, higher rates of energy security, higher rates of pensioners living in poverty. So just to finish, from the really cool Bob Marley, who said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have." Scotland's nearing this point. Now is the time for Scotland to be strong and move from a position of learned helplessness. We must choose wisely and write our message. Now is not the time to reverse evolution. Now is the time to rev it up and take Scotland to our logical destination. Autonomy and independence, and there are elected politicians to deliver that message. We must fight for the democracy that Scotland deserves. Part of that fight is an NHS in Scotland that is true to its founding principles, and a democracy by the people, for the people. Thank you.
An activist and director of the Afghan Human Rights Council. I'd like to give a big Glasgow welcome to Mohammed Hassan.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm a bit loud. thank you for coming today. Me coming here as a refugee 23 years ago, it was just like yesterday. A young man, but still very young, and have melted into the Scottish community, a proud Scots now. When I say independence, you ask me that we fought for our country in Afghanistan for many, many years. I know how it feels when you have a country. I know how it feels when you have your own identity. And I know how it feels when you call a country home. And that home was taken from us in Afghanistan, in many, many different wars. But now here in Scotland, we together, I think the biggest weakness right now is the division among us. We have to come united if we want to have a future for our children and grandchildren. You will be responsible when your grandchild go to school and read your history. He will blame you, she will blame you. That my grandfather did not fight enough for my country. So we have to come together and fight the imperialist policies. The policies that destroyed many, many countries around the world, brothers and sisters. You remember what happened in my country. 21 years of failed war by Britain and America and NATO. And after 23 years, Boris Johnson ran away in the middle of the night, abandoned the people of Afghanistan. Brothers and sisters, when hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of Glasgow in Scotland, I remember in this park when we started, marching against the illegal war in Iraq. And we were saying to the then war criminal, Tony Blair, that the war in Iraq was illegal. When the people of Scotland was telling Tony Blair and Bush that the war in Iraq is illegal and the people of Scotland will not take responsibility in Iraq. But we were told that the Scots don't matter. Brothers and sisters, we need to stay united, to have our future. When again, the Brexit, remember, when we were saying, the Scots were saying that we want, to be part of Europe, we were told that you will die of hunger. We will die of hunger, but now we know that the people who destroyed our livelihood, our future generation, the cost of land crisis, the energy crisis, the petrol crisis, the mortgage crisis, and it's you and me who are blamed, not the Tories and not in others. And they have created these crises, brothers and sisters. 1 minute, brother, for the last time. I'm a refugee, and now currently we have a racist regime led by the Tories in this country, brothers and sisters, blaming refugees for their own failure, the failure on mortgage crisis, the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, and everything is blamed on refugees. We are called the invaders. We are called the invaders. Imagine, I tell you about an invasion when B-52 is, flying on your head, killing your family and your children, displacing millions of people. That is an invasion, brothers and sisters. And when we say that we welcome our brothers and sisters from Ukraine, but now if you're an Afghan and if you're a product of the illegal war, if you're an Iraqi and you're a product of the illegal war, if you're a Libyan or Syrian or Yemeni, when you come to this country, brothers and sisters, you will be detained by the Tories and sent to Rwanda. So my appeal to everyone, brothers and sisters in this country, in this city, please come together. Fight for our future, for our children. On the 21st of May, we are going to protest, in front of a hotel in Erskine, because the far right are protesting every day against the refugees. So I will ask everyone to join us on the 21st of May in Erskine to say no to the Nazi in Scotland, welcoming, which welcomed me, my family, and many, many others. God bless Scotland and long live Scotland. Thank you.
Excellent speech there from Mohammed. When we've got new Scots like that joining our ranks, how can we possibly fail? For the next speaker, I'm just asked by Mike Fennick just to read out this the Declaration of a Sovereign Scot. For those who wish to add their signature, make their own individual declaration and have it recorded as part of an independent Scotland's history. Mike Fennick is here somewhere with his supply of forms. He's actually over at the tent. The next speaker that we've actually got on here today is Jim Cassidy. Jim Cassidy is an ex-serviceman who's involved with Airdrie for Independence, and he's also involved with Scottish trade unionists for Scottish independence. But give again a big Glasgow welcome to Jim Cassidy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so very glad to see so many of you out here, shoulder to shoulder, with each other to show that you stand in support of an independent Scottish Republic. When the first draft, the line-up for the speakers today was posted, I was due to speak after A.U.O.B, so I thought no pressure. So I'm sorry to see that our current First Minister hasn't fit to stand with us today. And I believe that on this issue, the professional political class, which stands at the head of the independence movement in Scotland, is significantly out of step with us, the people. Also not with us today are many of my trade union colleagues who are attending the Lothians Trade Union Rally in Edinburgh. They're marching to celebrate the work done by the trade unions across the world, and who have worked to give us many of the terms and conditions that we now enjoy today. Shorter working weeks, days off, paid leave, sick pay and pensions were not gifts bestowed on us by the great and the good. These are rights which had to be dragged from wealthy businessmen and women who got immeasurably rich by harnessing the efforts and the energy of people like you and people like me, the working class. But those rights are under attack. Day after day the Tories plot and plan to take away your rights. They want a minimum wage, 0-hour workforce. They want to make it easy to get rid of you without any comeback. They want a workforce who are afraid to answer them back. They want a workforce who are afraid to get sick. And they want a workforce stripped of their right to strike. And they are winning. The minimum service levels bill may have been pushed back by the House of Lords in England, but ultimately the Tory government can and will bring it back, and it will be enacted, removing the right to strike from hundreds of thousands of people across the country. And if you cannot strike, then what are you? You're a slave, that's what you are. So what can you do? Well, for starters, join a union. Gain the protection that your trade union provides and help to organise and ensure that you and your fellow workers get the pay, terms and conditions that you deserve, not what your bosses think that they can get away with giving you. And when you do join your union, get active. While linking arms with the Tories in 2014, some trade unions caused immeasurable damage to the trade union movement. So be the voice of the independence movement in your union and never let that happen again. Otherwise, the parcel of rogues in the Labour Party will speak on your behalf, and they won't be speaking in your interest. In the short term, the election of a Labour government in Westminster might provide some respite from this by reversing some legislation, but be under no illusions. The Tories will be back, and they can reverse anything that the Labour Party does. Of course, we wouldn't be in this mess if the British Nationalist Labour Party in Scotland hadn't blocked the devolution of employment legislation under the Smith Commission in 2014. But that's the small print they bear together that they would rather you forget. If you take one thing away from today, it's remember this: don't fall for Labour's false promises. And that short-term answer, by the way, doesn't solve Scotland's problems. And all it does is push it a bit further down the line. Pushes independence down the line. And when the Tories return, and they will, it'll be too late. The answer to Scotland's problems will not be found by falling into line with England. It will be found by stepping out into the world ourselves and taking decisions for ourselves and accepting responsibility for the outcomes of those decisions, be they good or bad. And when we do finally take that massive step, we must start off that new chapter in Scottish history by immediately implementing the lessons that we've learned over Scotland's recent past. We must put an end to the professional political class which exists across our Parliament. It is simply unacceptable that we can have professional politicians like Murdo Fraser who can receive rejection after rejection from the electorate and yet repeatedly end up on the public purse. 2 terms as a list MSP and you should out the door. Likewise, we must end the use of the list as a safety net for failed politicians who the public vote out of office, such as Elaine Smith of Labour, who after being voted out in Coatbridge, jumped onto the list and sat as a list MSP until she retired, taking her pension with her. That has to stop. Our politicians need a reminder that we, the people of Scotland, are sovereign, not them. Speaking of sovereigns, we don't need them either. When Betty Windsor died, we were told now is not the time to discuss the future of the monarchy. Well, behind the scenes, the ruling classes were ensuring that there was, as one commentator put it, a seamless transition of power. We live here in the Central Belt where sectarianism is still a massive problem. The R word is a divisive term which sends one side into a froth and rage, and the other side will cheer and give you a wee wink. It's time we could have a grown-up discussion about republicanism and becoming a republic. There is nothing wrong with being a republic and nothing wrong with being a Republican. The dictionary defines a republic as being a state in which the supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, in which is an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. And in the 21st century, shouldn't we be looking to join the other 159 republics in the world, not the 40-odd monarchies? If there's one thing that we can learn from Betty's brood, it's that their family can be every bit as dysfunctional as the next. They are nothing special, and it's high time we stop treating them as such. So get off your knees, Scotland. Stop doffing your caps and start treating the majesties, the subs, the lords and the ladies with the contempt that they deserve. Demand independence for Scotland and down with the crown.
Amen to that. Great speech again there, Jim. We should remind the SDUC that the majority of trade unionists in Scotland in 2014 voted for independence. We'd like to see a little bit more action for the SDUC on the settled will of the working class in Scotland, which is for independence. Now, Jim talked a wee bit there about republicanism. Our next speaker is Tasmania Sheikh Ahmed, the chair of the A.U.O.B party, and somebody who describes herself as a proud Republican, a proud Scottish Republican. Give it to your hands together for Tasmania.
the Scottish circumstance. And today, while Republicans peacefully protesting in London are being arrested for holding a contrary view, we're being asked to swear allegiance to King Charles III. Well, we are the people. We are sovereign, and we say no. Now consider the speeches that we've just heard. We heard from Anne, who was speaking for the NHS. The cause of Scotland is the cause of the National Health Service. We heard from Jim speaking for the trade unionists. The cause of Scotland is the cause of the workers. And we heard from Mohammed, who was speaking about human rights. And the cause of Scotland is the cause of justice and peace the world over. And here at Glasgow Green, it is the people who have rallied for these causes over centuries. Now, the Scottish national movement is as old as Scotland itself. And I am proud, really proud, to be a Scottish Asian woman and proud to chair the A.U.O.B party. But I know that this movement is bigger, much, much bigger than any political party. And when Scotland is threatened and Scotland is being threatened, we unite, we rise, we fight, and we win. Now last week, the Secretary of State against Scotland, Alistair Jack, he wore this fancy uniform to protect the Stone of Destiny, the symbol of our Scottish sovereignty. A bit rich coming from him, perhaps even richer than he is himself. But it was people like Jack who allowed it to be stolen from Scotland in the first place. We had a Scots phrase back then for people like Alistair. They were two tabards, empty coats. And the truth is, union jobs like Alistair have been stealing Scotland's assets for generations, in fact, for centuries. And now Jack's got his boots on. He said just a few days ago that the Scottish Parliament won't be allowed to prepare for independence. Well, I've got news for Alistair Jack boots. This movement can and will prepare for independence. Alistair Jack, you cannot divide Scotland because this movement will unite. You cannot crush Scotland because this movement will rise. And I started by pointing out that in 1820 the Scots who rallied here were Baird, Hardy and Wilson, the martyrs from 1820, and they marched and rallied under a banner that said, Scotland free or a desert. It's now our job, your job, this movement's job, to rally under a new banner, all under one banner, together to unite this movement and take us to victory. And that flag only now needs to say Scotland free, because Scotland will be free and Scotland wants independence now. Thank you.
Cracking speech from Tasmania there. Our next speaker, again like Tasmania, really needs no introduction for me, is Joanna Cherry, SNP MP for Edinburgh South West since 2015, a foreign factor, somebody who stuck out heels into the ground and wouldn't be moved. My admiration for her has increased enormously over the last 3 years. Give a hand again for Joanna Cherry.
Back marching with all under one banner again. I did have an invitation to put my name in the ballot for the coronation, but as anyone who knows me would have guessed, I'd much rather be here with you today than at Westminster. Because, my friends, today is a particularly good day to remind the British establishment that in Scotland it is the people who are sovereign. Not the Parliament and not the King, but the people. And that's really, really important because our sovereignty as Scots and people who live in Scotland means that we have the right to self-determination. And like all other human rights, it's a right that is universal. The right to self-determination is not a right that uniquely Scotland cannot claim. And I say that no matter what the United Kingdom Supreme Court may have said in a recent court case, which I think was both misconceived and misguided. Scotland has the right to self-determination because the union between Scotland and England is a union of consent. So it's a union that can be ended by the will of the people living in Scotland. And no 25-year-old Devolution Act, no British government and no court can ever deny that basic democratic reality. The union which we currently have with England is 300 years old. So it's constitutional nonsense to say that it can only be brought to an end by a referendum backed by a Section 30 order from an Act of Parliament that's only 25 years old. We need to move away from going cap in hand to the British government asking for a Section 30 order. Instead, we need to find another democratic way to express our sovereignty. Now, it's really fantastic to see so many people here today. And like my fellow speakers, we encompass members from several different parties and people who aren't a member of a political party at all. Now, I'm a Scottish National Party MP. That's what I was elected as, and that's what I intend to stay. But for me, it is always country before party. So my loyalty is to my country, the people who live in it, and our Yes movement. Now, our movement for self-determination has come a long way in the last 10 years. And the SNP has had a huge role to play in that. And I know the SNP have hit a bit of a bump in the road at the moment, and we face some challenges. But I can tell you this, no matter how big those challenges are, the SNP is a party with a proud history and some really great people in it. So we're going to sort out our problems and be back in the vanguard of the independence movement. It's important to remember today that the movement for independence is much bigger than the SNP and it exists independently of the SNP. Now, in recent days, Alex Salmond has made the point that 10 years ago, this time 10 years ago, the SNP was enjoying support in the high 40s, while support for independence languished at around 30%. But despite the SNP suffering a bit of a dip in the polls, and I think we can make that up, independence now still enjoys sustained support in the high 40s. And I think that's really important. Now, I remember very well in 2012 attending the launch of the Yes campaign 2 years before the referendum, and I remember it because it took place in the cinema complex at Fountain Bridge, which is now just across the road from my Edinburgh South West constituency office. And at the time the independence campaign, the Yes campaign, was launched, support for independence was at 28%. And I have to tell you that despite all the excitement and the hype of the launch of the independence campaign, I was gloomy because I thought we faced an impossible task. But I was wrong. I was completely wrong about that, because support went from 28% to above 50%, and we nearly won in 2014. And even though we didn't win, we've delivered an independence movement that, despite all our ups and downs, is still extremely strong. But unfortunately, that's the good news. Here's not the bad news, but the more challenging news. Support in the high 40s is not enough. What we need to do, and the challenge we face, is to build that support. And in order to do that, we need to bring the sort of people that I meet day in, day out in my constituency who aren't yet convinced of independence. We need to bring them with us. And we ought to be able to do that because these people are disgusted. They're disgusted with Brexit. They're disgusted with the existence of fuel poverty in an energy-rich country, and they're disgusted by the ethical vacuum at the heart of the Conservative and Unionist Party. So we ought to be able to persuade these people, because they know that Scotland can and should do better. But these people aren't yet convinced because they've got big questions about the economy of an independent Scotland, big questions about cross-border trade, and big questions about going back into the European Union. So there's a lot of hard work to be done answering those questions. And I give you my word today that I'm going to continue to work hard to try and make sure that the Scottish National Party and the Scottish Government use the power invested in us by the Scottish people to answer those questions. You also have my word that I will continue to use such influence as I have within the SNP to make sure the party sorts out its internal problems and devises a strategy that will enable us to hold and win an independence vote. Now, on that issue, like many issues, my friend and my colleague Ash Regan, who spoke earlier, was right during the SNP leadership campaign. She was right that now that the route to another independence referendum is closed off, we need to make sure that every election, every British general election and every Scottish election, the Scottish National Party and the other pro-independence parties put the issue of independence front and centre in our manifesto. The issue of independence is front and centre until we win a mandate to negotiate with the British government. Now, credit where credit's due, that is the idea that Ash advanced with great courage during the SNP leadership campaign. It's a great idea, and I was really interested to read in the National yesterday that even some of my colleagues who were once implacably opposed to this idea have suddenly been converted to it now and think it's a good idea. And I think that should give us real cause for optimism. So enjoy your day out, keep your spirits up, and go home to your constituencies and prepare for an election on the question of independence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. The Colonial Governor, Mr. Alistair Union Jack, said that the silent majority of Scots will be celebrating the coronation today. He said that we'll all be out there because it's the silent majority who will be celebrating this. Is this true? Is there any closet monarchists out there? Is anybody going to be swearing allegiance to this imbecile, this witless dauphin, this morose cloth-eared idiot who married his horse and thinks that we should top the plants? The man's a complete embarrassment, and this is the absolute death of the United Kingdom. You have this idiotic ceremony attended by morons down south who seem to think that we should all be forelock-tugging peasants and bow down to this man because of who his ancestors were. If things had turned out differently today, it would have been Prince Andrew who was being crowned king instead of Charles, who's Jimmy Savile's pal, who we're getting now. So this is what we have. We're being ruled by a criminal mafia whose
Thank you. Lovely to see you. It's great. I'm back and we're back, and the independence movement is firmly on the march again. You know, today is Coronation Day. And I walked today with you. We marched from one side of Glasgow city centre, clean through the city centre to the other side of the city centre, and I didn't see one single butcher's apron on the way on Coronation Day in Glasgow. What does that say about this city? If you were looking at your television now, you'd be seeing all the people buggering about in London, all the floozies, all the people in their lace, in their velvet, in their gold braid, with their medals they never earned, and their silly hats with plumes, and Charlie in his sparkly bonnet sitting on his chair above the old cistern stone they think belongs to us. You'd see all that and it looks laughable, and it is laughable. It's nothing to do with this day and age. But there's the hard power of the British state behind it. And that hard power is not laughable. That hard power is vicious and calculating, and that hard power of the British state is the enemy of the people of Scotland. It is our only enemy. The only enemy of the Scottish people is the government of the United Kingdom. And anybody who believes that the government in London and the establishment in London will ever willingly give up Scotland, give up our fantastic natural resources, give up the talent of our people, give up our seas, give up our lands, they will never give that up. We have to take independence for ourselves. Independence does not lie through London. Independence lies in Scotland and in Scotland alone. If you believe, as I believe, that Scotland is a nation with the right of self-determination, then by definition, Scotland does not need the permission of London to become independent. And anybody who goes to London asking for permission does not truly believe in Scottish independence. Independence is achievable. Independence will be achieved by the people of Scotland. We need, as a movement, to unite. We need, as a movement, to move forward. We need to not be distracted by the day-to-day trials and tribulations of the political class, because that has nothing to do with Scottish independence or the people of Scotland, which is a much bigger and more important cause, but is about the very freedom of a nation. It is the most fundamental question you can have. And I believe that today has shown that we are back on the march again. Scotland is moving forward and independence is coming. Thank you.
Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Panda Pond out on load, go and see the pandas. Me and you form a queue, go and see the pandas. There's kangaroos, cockatoos, tigers and piranhas. Then go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. When you go round the roads, they're digging up the tarmac. The streets are blocked, shops are shut. They go and see the pandas. Where's the trams? What's the plans if you're looking for the answers? Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. They're overfed, they're interbred, they're anti-social bastards. And go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Houston, Holyrood, go and see the pandas. The arse around the tube bamboo, go and see the pandas. There's trees, lakes, pearly gates, furry sheep verandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Welcome to the concrete zoo. Go and see the pandas. They scrape and crawl, do fuck all. Go and see the pandas. All the while, down the mile, they're scrabbing your bananas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Overfed, interbred, anti-social bastards. Go and see, go and see, go and see the pandas. Thanks guys, alright. This song doesn't need an introduction, you know what it's about as soon as I've sing the first line. BBC, stop your bloody licence fee. All you do is lie to me, so stop your licence, BBC. I recall when I was wee, sitting on my mammy's knee, Captain Pugwash on the main, Shaft the cat and semen stains. I mind the magic roundabout. What the hell was that about? And why are we supposed to pay for Downtown Abbey anyway? BBC, stop your bloody licence fee. All you do is lie to me, so stop your licence, BBC. Somebody told me Downtown Abbey was actually on ITV, not BBC, but I don't care, I never watched it anyway. To the right wing line, loading guests on question time. Panorama, news at 10, actors' voices for champagne. BBC, stop your bloody licence fee. All you do is lie to me, so stop your licence, BBC. You don't have to let them pass your threshold, by the way. They have no right to enter your house. Whatever they say. And when you lied on Indie One about the pensions and the pound, 5,000 gathered to complain, but you reported 38. BBC, stop your bloody licence fee. All you do is lie to me, so stop your licence, BBC. Jimmy Savile, Prince Andy, stop your licence, BBC. £145.50p. It wasn't last time I paid it, but that was over 9 years ago. It's probably went up by now. Stop your licence, BBC. Thanks guys. Anyway. This next song, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to imagine my dog. And you've got to imagine my dog living in a Kilmarnock housing estate. And my name is Bullet. And I'm a Staffordshire Terrier. pull at the dog. Pull at the dog. Pull at the dog. Pull at the dog. Marvin gets his money every second week. He's drinking at the bar in the block. Dina isn't happy, just starting to greet, so I've zero chance of getting my walk. You want to hear the language and a verbal abuse. Marvin's getting over the phone. Bought me all the garbage lying around the house. I can't even find my phone. What's that? Pull at the dog, I'm the one and only. Pull at the dog, I can tell you stories. Pull at the dog, about pure amazing. Pull at the dog, all these cats are crazy. Well, guys get their heads kicked down the road. The neighbours getting done for skag. Dana's chucking dishes off the kitchen wall, cause she doesn't have enough for fags. I know what's going to happen when he gets through the door. There's going to be some trouble to come. I've tried to pay the bolt a dozen times before, but I'm addicted to my pedigree chum. What's that? Pull at the dog, you're amazing. Pull at the dog, all these cats are crazy. Pull at the dog, they're always getting bored. Pull at the dog, they're always getting cold. Drugs and violence, police sirens, fights over football teams. Girls and roadworks, lanes with fireworks, smash windows in the scheme. DWP, RSVP, SSCP. If you think it's a dog's life, try taking this tripe every single fucking day. Pull at the dog, one and only. Pull at the dog, I can tell you stories. Pull at the dog, you're amazing. Pull at the dog, all these cats are crazy. Pull at the dog, they're always getting bored. Pull at the dog, they're always getting cold. Pull at the dog, well I'm a pure amazing. Pull at the dog, all these cats are crazy. Thank you very much, guys.
Today, I should probably start by introducing myself, as I'm sure most of you will be wondering who's that randomer up there. I'm Hector McLeod, I'm here for the A.U.O.B party, and yes, I've just come down for the Isle of Skye. No, I'm not very big, but when talking about Scottish independence, I'm certainly no very shy. And I'm here for two reasons that I suspect are very similar to most of you here today. First, to tell the new king that I swear no allegiance to him or any member of the crown. The only allegiance I swear is to Scotland and its sovereign people. And secondly, to support Scotland's call to dissolve this unequal union and reclaim our rightful place as an independent nation. I spent a long time considering what to speak about today. I considered the energy scandal of Scotland producing 6 times the amount of energy we need, yet our people are still shivering in their homes. I considered mentioning all the 65 countries that have become independent from the UK or British Empire, yet not one has asked to come back. I considered speaking about all the possibilities that could become available to Scotland to become a more positive, outlooking, rich, resourceful and most importantly happy nation with independence. But then I figured you all know this, that's why you're here today. So I'm not going to speak about the case for independence, as we all know why we need it. The questions I suspect we have is how we get it. So I thought I'd give my tuppence on that, but do it in maybe a different way to others. I'm someone who likes to make analogies when talking. I think you can explain stuff a lot easier and better when you compare it with something people can relate to. So I was thinking, how do I explain and compare this? And I've decided to be a bit bold, maybe even a bit risky, and I'm going to mix football and politics. Now don't worry, I decided to be bold, not daft, so I'm not going near club football. I'll stick with Scotland, but just in case the SFA don't involved in this, let's call it, say, Scotland United. In my opinion, football teams need three things to be successful. They need a good support, a good team, and a good manager. So let's compare these three things with the independence movement. And I apologise to those who might not know the players I mentioned, but don't worry, you'll get the gist. So the support, that's all of us here today, and all of us that support independence. I think there's no question we have a good support. We are the Tartan Army United. Then the team. The way I see the team is, in defence, we have our local yes groups, and they've been performing brilliantly. If I was sponsoring the match, I think I'd be awarding them the man of the match. Since 2014, they have not let anything in behind and have been key to keeping our support safe at a steady 45 to 50%, even through some tough opposition. They have given a performance Mr. Braveheart Colin Hendry would be proud of. In midfield, we have the yes organisations such as All Under One Banner, Hope Over Fear, Commonweal, Indie Live, Salvo, etc. They have been playing defensive midfield and helping keep the support there, as well as driving forward as attacking midfielders in attempts to boost the support. And they have also given an outstanding performance, a performance Super John McGinn would be proud of. Now in attack, this is where I see the political parties, and where some could say we are struggling a bit. Our main striker over the last few years seems to have picked up a bit of an injury. And as with all injuries, the longer the player continues to ignore it, the worse it seems to be getting. They really need to get it assessed and treated before it ends their career. However, for the team, although we hope the star striker can get back to full fitness and their best form, we know there's no I in team, and this is a team effort. The team can still strive on to success, as we have up-and-coming strikers who have played a couple of games already and are starting to really get the fans on board and support, and I believe that they can take the team to victory. And lastly, the manager. In 2014, we had a manager who took us to the final, but sadly resigned after narrowly losing out in injury time. Although, while I'm in no way a fan of VAR, I think the opposition's goal would have been ruled out for offside, given the lies told in the vow had we seen the replay. We then had a manager take over who, while winning some big games, they never quite got us to that final. So we now need a different manager. We need a manager who can bring the team together, a manager who can unite both the team and the supporters behind them, and a manager who has the tactics and strategies to take us over the line to victory. That manager is just waiting for the call. They have already been supported by both former managers, firstly by the last manager in February 2020, and also by our previous manager on numerous occasions. That new manager should be an independence convention. That will unite the movement, that will use the strength of our defence to the team's best advantage, that will take on all the ideas, tactics and strategies of the midfield, and that will drive the strikers on to scoring the winning goal, a goal that will knock James McFadden's winner in Paris out of the park. But more importantly, and on a serious note now, a convention can bring us what we've all been dreaming of, campaigning for, and it's needed for too long now. So I ask you please, when you get home, write to your MP, your MSPs, your councillors, bring it up at meetings, and let's get this convention called. Because I'll make no apology in saying that more of the same in what we're currently seeing just isn't going to cut it. We need to call for less talking and more action. No more cap in hand, it's independence we demand. Enough is enough. We must reclaim our independence, to respect our past, survive our present, and to give hope to our future. Tapaliv agus Sir Alba Gibra.
Next we have from Salvo, Sarah Salyers. Sarah, welcome. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can I ask, could we all just come in a wee bit? There's not that many of us left. So, and I'm not very good with these things. And to those of you who've stayed this whole long, wet, cold day, well done. And that's the Scottish spirit at work. Okay, I'm going to dedicate the next 5 minutes to one Willie McRae. Willie, wherever you are, I hope you're watching us, because we're going to finish what you started. Right, here's the question. Why are we all here today, instead of watching, along with millions of others worldwide, the coronation of Chuck III? Maybe it's because we're offended by the spectacle of the ruling class parading its God-given right to reign over us through the symbolism of an English feudal ceremony. If you want something to make the point of all that symbolism a bit clearer, it's written on a plaque across from St Bartholomew's Hospital in London, at the site where William Wallace was tortured to death. It says, "Serve and obey." Is that what we're objecting to? Or maybe we see the whole pageant celebrating a history of empire, international inhumanity, slavery, genocide, and selling that to the people as something to get patriotic about. But no one here feels patriotic about it. Not about the loot taken from so many nations, and not about our stone of destiny, or rather, the lump of Perth sandstone that has stood for English claims to overlordship of Scotland for about 700 years. So here's an idea. Instead of bewailing our stone of destiny getting taken away, how about we turn the whole thing round? What Charles will be crowned on is a fake, probably a pudgy stain. So how about laughing instead of crying about it? Imagine if instead of standing like an obedient lackey to the side of the royal lump of stone, Humza had pointed at it, laughed his head off and walked away. And by the way, Salvo's thinking of presenting His English Majesty with a golden loo roll to go with the royal rabbit thing. Maybe we reject the ostentatious wealth and privilege, the scene of extravagance, when so many people in this toxic union are destitute, hungry, homeless, and sick. Maybe it's all that and something more. Maybe your gut tells you something else is terribly wrong with what happened today, but you don't know exactly what. Well, I'd like to tell you what your gut knows. Today, an English monarch took an English oath and imposed the institution of the English crown across Britain. And that is a crime against this nation and this kingdom of Scotland, against every Scot alive today and every Scot who ever lived and died for what it means to be a Scot. Because what it means to be a Scot is to be the crown of Scotland. That is what still guarantees that the people of Scotland are sovereign. They are the sovereign crown of the nation. And this union, brought about by a forced treaty that the English establishment had no intention of ever honouring, has never had the lawful right to touch the crown of Scotland or anything it owns. Some people say this is all ancient history, all over and done with. If you believe that, I have news for you. Scotland's oil and gas, our water and our renewables are plundered now, today, in right of the crown. Not some joint crown created for the brand new union in United Kingdom in 1707, but the same old English crown that has always coveted Scotland. That crown says it all belongs to His English Majesty, not the Scottish crown, which is the people. That's how they take our oil and gas and renewables and water and all the rest today. And that's why we're paying so much for what we already own. But hold on. Scotland never came under the rule of the English crown in 1707 because no queen or parliament, English or Scottish, and no treaty they made had the power to extinguish the Scottish crown or replace it with England's. And the British establishment knows that. 300 years of military control, cultural, legal, social and physical genocide has been trying to wipe out Scotland's collective memory. Wipe out the record of the terms and limits of a bogus treaty, but one England agreed and is bound to. Wipe out the memory of a people that they were and are the Crown of Scotland. But I've news for that establishment. Scotland is waking up. Scotland remembers, and Scotland is rising. I'm sorry for keeping you. I've just a wee bit to do. What's important here is that no nation in the world has ever achieved liberation without a powerful sense of its own identity. And there's no more powerful clue to our identity than the truth that we are together the Crown of Scotland, that we are the power in this nation and we can shape our destiny. As Salvo says, know your past, shape your future. How do we do it? Salvo's working to support a liberation movement and an international campaign to expose this union as a fraud. A fraud. Look underneath. Lift up the Union Jack. You know what you'll find? Just the English establishment strutting around in disguise, as vicious towards their own people as all the other so-called lower classes of the world. If you've not signed up for Liberation or Salvo, do and get your friends and family to do it as well. But that alone won't set us free. I can't tell you exactly what the eventual route to freedom is going to look like. But I can tell you it will take all of us together. And we can start, those of us that are left, here and now. No one here is SNP or ISP or ALBA or any other party because we can't be our beliefs. That's the whole gender reform thing, that you can be something because you believe it, and we all know that's not true, right? Beliefs can change. What we are is what can't change. What we are as Scots. That cannot change, and that's what unites us. So, you heard, everybody's heard about the invitation we were all given to take the feudal oath to His Most English Majesty. An invitation to commit treachery against the nation of Scotland and ourselves by surrendering our sovereignty to an English crown. How dared they? So, how about sending Scotland's answer? So I have a few words. They've been taken and expanded from the legally required Scottish oath of accession. That's the one Charles won't take. If I say it line by line, will you say it with me? I faithfully promise. The lawful rights and rents. With all just privileges. Of the Crown of Scotland, which is the people of this nation. I shall claim. I shall call to account all those who have betrayed, transferred, or undermined it. Theft, oppression, and wrongdoing. Against this people, I shall answer with justice, equity, and the restoration of our rights. our laws and the common good of our sovereign community. So help me. Now, I was going to say let's give ourselves a round of applause, but instead let's do something else. Let's turn around to whoever's around you, beside you, and if you're a hugger, hug, and if you're a handshaker, shake hands. Let's embrace each other as the crown of Scotland staking its claim. Did you feel it today? Yes. Scotland is waking up. Scotland remembers. And Scotland is rising.
And we're being a cause. And our mission is to crowd platform the contributors to Scotland's future. That's you. It's good to be here today again, together, talking about independence. This is normal. This is what normal countries do. They talk about what their future looks like, how they achieve their goals, their dreams, their aspirations. That must be Scotland's North Star to a better country. What is not normal is the pantomime being played out down south, where Scotland's electorate are merely spectators. Kings, queens, palaces, carriages made of gold. When poverty and precariousness scars our daily lives across our society, where we are powerless to influence the decisions that impact us, from Brexit, Tory austerity and hostile policies. There's a proud history here in Glasgow of standing up to those averse to the values that we hold dear. When we talk of empires and injustice, we don't need to look far to see the rebellion of thought through generations in the people who call this place home. This week we have celebrated May the 4th be with you, a celebration of the rebel cause in Star Wars. This gives us pause to think back to the last time Scotland had a national conversation, and we can chuckle at the creativity and humour that helped breathe life back into this nation that had forgotten for too long how we drive ourselves to a better future. In 2014, the Great Train was sent north with members of the UK Parliament as tension rose across the establishment in line with the polls. The self-appointed great and good were welcomed by the famous Glasgow rickshaw. You may now know the famous Glasgow rickshaw as Shorty Boy. A collective confusion of trolley case wielding suits scuttled as fast as their brogues could carry them up Buchanan Street to the amplified bellows of "Bow down to your imperial masters! The Empire has arrived!"
It was hilarious then and it's still hilarious now. So much so that Alice and I brought lightsabers today just in case. The point is this though, while the UK powers on with a failed Brexit, a failed economic argument and a failed outlook for the future, we must look to the one aspirational light left in the sky, the light of independence. Independence is now the safe choice. Independence is the only choice that will economically and financially improve our country. Independence is the only solution to the problems our society faces. It was said in 2014 when Alex Salmond stood down, that was the end and support would fall. It was said again in 2022 when we lost the Supreme Court case, that was the end and support would fall. It was said again once more in 2023 when Nicola Sturgeon stood down, that now we were at the end and support would fall. And yet here we are today.
And support has not fallen, because the answer never was and never will be politicians. The answer has always been the people. The problems we face now are our own gifts to fix, But we must focus, not on the past, not even on the future, but now. The present is where real progress begins. We must build forward, ahead of the politicians, and tell them to follow us. The days of idle arguing on social media are over. The days of labels, party hats, and exclusive clubs are done. Everyone is a contributor on this journey. Everyone must advance the cause. Take the time you have, take the time you can. Focus on an idea or an issue that you are passionate about. Do the research, write a document. Take that document and share it. Everyone must share their work. It's the progression of ideas that count, not copyright but contribution. Elevate ourselves from the petty criticism by becoming our own editorial team. No more, oh but that's rubbish. Help improve it or write better.
Ask your friends their fears and their concerns. Ask them to tell you why they're not convinced yet to yes. Then help build the documents and the arguments that will solve the problem. We have no opposition, we have a boundless future to write. Every time the unionists point out a flaw, a concern or a soundbite, they do us a favour. It gives us the opportunity to improve our plan, to make our ship watertight. We need to embrace our critical friends. We need to have a wider door and longer table. We need to build the perspective together. None of this needs a massive organisation. None of this needs a political party. None of this needs guidance from those in power. The truth is, the people are who the politicians fear.
The people are where ideas are born. The people are who dream. The people are who make demands. So today, invite the politicians to follow you. Support and celebrate those who go home today and start writing. Iterate and build on those ideas. Improve them with your contribution. The ideas of tomorrow will be written today. The future is not yet written. It has always been in our hands. So pick up your pen, your keyboard, or your mic. Take control. Make a stand. Write your own future. The first words after the French Revolution were Vive la France! In the spirit of the Old Alliance, let the first words of our Scottish independent nation be Vive la France!
Those of us who dare to dream, plan, deliver a better future as one. We're dauntless, brave and loyal, valiant to the end. If you came here a stranger, you will surely exit a friend. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. We've got one more speaker and one more music act and then we're done. It's great to see so many people still here at the end. It's been raining and all the rest of it, so well done. So next up we've got David Henry of the Scottish Sovereignty Research Group. Big round of applause for David, please.
Hi folks, thanks for sticking around so long. So hello Glasgow. This is Edinburgh calling. Right, we're all here for one reason, and that reason is to support Scotland's future and to see Scotland become independent. When I voted yes, which believe it or not I voted yes, on the 18th of September 2014, I then joined the SNP the next day. Never voted for them before, but voted for them ever since. I didn't think, however, 9 years later, we'd still be waiting for independence to be delivered. I then joined the Scottish Sovereignty Research Group, so of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? So we call it SSRG. It was set up just over 3 years ago. It's a think tank. We do a lot of thinking. And we also bring lots of experts, academics and politicians to meetings every week to discuss the big issues and to try and bring together a consensus of what Scotland is going to be like when we are independent. So I want to ask you a wee question. What do we want? When do we want it? The SSRG published 2 documents in the last year. One is the Claim of Right, and the other is the Treaty of Union. We also held, as many of you might know, last year, a 3-day conference in Dunfermline. Many of you might have been there. Thank you for your support. We're doing it again this year, on the 14th to 16th of July, again the same venue, only it's going to be bigger and better than last year. We have already invited the A.U.O.B Party, ISP, SNP and Scottish Greens to join us. We don't expect the Scottish Greens, funny enough, to come because they never seem to reply to our emails, but hey. We will also be inviting the Scottish Conservatives and the Scottish Labour Party. However, they never reply. All under one banner has been essential in bringing us all together. I think they've done a fantastic job today. And long may it continue. Don't worry, it's a very short speech. So SSRG is organising its 3-day independence conference, from the 14th to 16th. It's open to all politicians, experts, academics, and most importantly, it's open to all supporters of Scottish independence. So as many of you as possible, please try and come along. We'll also make it available online. 1. Scotland can be a fairer, more equal country. We don't need to accept 200% increases in our electricity bills. We can have a publicly owned energy company that will benefit every Scottish household. You just need to vote for it. Scotland can join EFTA within months, not years. That gives you access to all the EU trade deals. The Scottish nation can be in charge of its future once again. You just need to vote for it. Scotland can have a central bank. It can have its own currency. You just need to vote for it. So the SSRG conference is the next step for the Yes movement. In July, we're going to bring representatives and supporters from the SNP, the A.U.O.B Party, ISP, and our friends, family and neighbours who are still supporters of the Union. Let us all get together and help build a better country. It's time we all work together. It's time we voted for independence. I want to see you there in July. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. So before with the last person on the stage, we've got Andy Docherty just about to play some songs. So the next march is in Stirling on 24th of June, and then it's Ayr on the 29th of July and onwards up to Edinburgh on the 7th of October. So this is online, it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the dates. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's get to Stirling and let's carry this on. Let's get a massive march on the 24th of June. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
3-hour wait for 10 minutes of glory. You know what I mean? But it's been well worth it. It's been a wonderful day. Eh? Okay. Well, I just want to say, the first one I want to say, it's about this issue of colonisation. One of the things that people do when they colonise another country is they make friends with the elite in that country. And this is a song that Robert Burns wrote about that process. A lot of people think it's about an anti-English song. It's nothing of the kind. It's about Scottish people who cooperate with colonial powers. It's called Sic a Pars to the Rogues in a Nation. Farewell to all our Scottish fame, farewell our ancient glory, farewell into the Scottish name, sacred and martial story. The sun from sailors already sang, and we ran heavy ocean, to mark where England's broad stand, Sic a Pars in a nation. What force of guile could not subdue the many a warlike ages, is wrong now by a coward few, or hireling traitors' wages. The English steel we could stain, secure in valor's station, but English gold has been to the bars the nation. To sing all the miserable songs, you know, kind of sad songs. You know. I hope in the future that we're on a little bit more. It's nice to calm down a bit before we leave it. You know, the around the tree. My father's prayer and holy time. First then I heard my mother's voice in the martyr sign. But now I'm gone, maybe I will sit beneath the rowan tree. But hallowed thoughts are only twine. And infancy around Thanks very much. Seems as though we've been at today. We try and help us like all that thing, no? Thanks a lot.